Hello again, it's Noob, and for those of you who already subscribe to Baldiloks' YouTube channel, great picker by the way, makes some fantastic tools too. You already know what this lock is, but for those of you who don't, well, I really wanted to show off this this lock on my own channel, mostly because I just wanted a closer look at it. I thought you all might want a bit of a look at it too, and I just wanted to give my perspective on this bit of engineering as well. So, when Baldiloks got the idea, what he wanted to do was make a padlock. And, well, we all know what padlocks are. We probably pick tons of them every week. But it's a padlock, right? And we all know how padlocks work. But to make one and to sort of get around all of the limitations of not having access to the best milling machines and such like, it takes some real ingenuity to make something in those sort of conditions. And what this padlock's made of is clearly an offcut of billet of aluminium. Now, I will demonstrate how this lock works, and I'll go through it bit by bit, and we'll even strip it down. I'll show you how it works. But the first thing to look at is the key. Now, why does a key look like this? Well, the thing is that it's very hard to think about how you might make a key for a lock when you don't have access to the kind of machinery which can cut warding in a lock. And they are related, because you could think, well, okay, I could take a key like this and I could take all the wiggly warding off it and just have it flat. Well, yeah, you could. But there's a reason why that in itself might cause a problem. And also, this keyway in its own right is quite innovative, because this is a lever lock key. And if you look here, it's been cut with dimples. You could say it's like a dimple key, a bit like those girder locks you might have seen with perfectly round keys. And the bitting, just like a dimple lock, if you look at it side on, has different cut depths. If we put this in and turn it, sort of, you might have to align the key a wee bit in the lock, because clearly hasn't got the tightest manufacturing tolerances since it's done by hand, and the shackle releases. You'll notice from the shackle cutouts that is actually a dual ball bearing mechanism. If I rotate it around and just give it a tap, you can see a ball bearing poking out there. So already we have a couple of things we've had to think about. What shackle retaining mechanism do we need? Well, in manufactured locks, the easiest one would be a single locking pawl. But in terms of making something like that, so a locking pawl that works with an actuator, relatively difficult compared to, or relatively complex to cut that mechanism out, compared to, say, a ball bearing mechanism, which is actually in some ways better. So the keyway is round. Why round? Well, again, it's a brilliant way to get around thinking about how you cut a keyway when you don't have access to, as I said earlier, the milling tools which you do a job like this. So you can drill just a hole down the middle. You already have access to round keys which can take a bitting. It's a perfect fit. It's just brilliant. A little round bit of brass like that holds the pins in. You can put the key in, it locates and turns. But then, how does it turn the core? Well, that's another bit of ingenuity. You can see here that there's a little tip on the key, and that is sort of half moon shaped. So if that goes into the back of the actuator, or I guess it isn't the actuator, it's the back of the plug, it already can add tension to the lock and turn the core. Very, very neat. Let's take this apart. So I mean, already you can just see the thinking around this. without access to complex milling machines, what can you do with sort of pillar drills? So, well, let's have another look here. So already you can see where a plug has been put in to block the holes in which were drilled for the ball bearings. That's kind of cool. You can see that a hole was drilled here to get the plug on the inside, a hole drilled here and possibly milled or drilled a couple of times to make I guess a gap for the shackle, which could be shorter and it'd almost be fully closed. It's, already you're thinking, okay, so this is a really well thought out design. You're already getting an idea of how you could make a plug, tension it, get a key which can hold a bitting, and have a shackle mechanism which is held in really well. So how's all plug held in? How does it all work together? Well, let me take out a few pins first of all before we take the whole thing apart, and hopefully I can show you a bit more. Oh, before we do that though, this is a lock picking channel. Shall we try and pick it? Now I'm going to use a tension tool to go to the back, into the back of the plug, and that should tension it. And I'm also going to use it as a rake, so I'm going to wiggle it up and down against the pins, and hopefully we get an open. And there we go. I think we've got an open. Yep, we do. There we go. So you can say that I've already raked it, and I can turn it all the way back, and we can get it to lock up again, and that should work just as well with the key if you align the key properly, of course, which like I said can be a wee bit tricky on this lock, but there we go, we've got an open. Anyway, right, so to the pins. What I want to show you is how these pins are not falling into the keyway, because it's all well and good drilling down inside and drilling down from the top to make pin chambers, but then don't your pins fall into the keyway, especially when you don't have the warding in the keyway, which is stepped such that the pins can rest on it and not fall into the keyway in a standard lock? Well, let's have a little look at one of these chambers. There's a driver pin, and here is there we go, one of the key pins. And this design is actually quite common. There are a number of locks, including the Yale Superior and others, dimple locks, which actually have a similar configuration where they have a slightly T-pin configuration so that the pins don't fall into the keyway. So again, just well thought out. Okay, so I'll probably speed this bit up, but let's take the whole thing apart. Okay, so I've got all of the little pins out, and you can see them all here. Very, very cool. See all the driver pins and springs. And you see the key pins are all different heights, of course, to match the bitting of the key. And if you look at the bitting, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pins. You've got 6 chambers drilled in, which you can see there. And of course, this chamber here was drilled in to have a way to retain the core or the plug, and I would expect in here to have a spring and some form of blocker for the plug. Now I should be able to remove the plug now. There we go. and inside there are ball bearings, which I'll try to leave alone so they don't all roll out the place. Leaves us an angle. And then what we can see is how the plug was made. So again, you can drill the chambers at the top thick, but you can see there's a ledge there, and that narrows the chamber to allow the T-shaped key pins to sit inside. Very cool. Now imagine that this is in the lock. What you don't want to do is over rotate, and the way you can resolve that is just by cutting or milling a groove in here. You just need something to sit in there and stop it from moving past that position, so just about 80 degrees. And that is a little ball bearing which we took out, which sits under spring tension there and means that this plug can't move. Now, actuator. Again, without being able to sort of mill brass and get a really nice actuator, this is a absolutely brilliant a little way to do this. So you can see that at the back it's just another piece of aluminium, which is a bit like a cam. So when it's in the lock, you can see that it forces the ball bearings out, and then when it's unlocked, or should I say it's unlocked this way, the ball bearings can come closer together. So the wide part, the thin part, and that's really how it works. It just it's just an elegant design. You also see that it's ever so slightly thinned all the way around, so that this doesn't go too far down. It's got a little lip in there too. Just brilliant, really brilliant. Okay, we'll just gently take out the shackle. And again, this is another good reason for having the ball bearing mechanism in, is that it's really elegant in the way that you can just slim down a shackle like this and rotate it around so that the bottom part where my thumb is traps the ball bearing when the ball bearing is in it. Oh, come back here, you. And means that it doesn't, the whole shackle doesn't fly out. When it's pushed in further, as it gets locked, then obviously the ball bearings trap the shackle inside when the cam is engaged at its fattest and pushes the ball bearings into those two shackle cutouts. Yeah, just a really elegant design. So what I think is really excellent about this lock is just the ingenuity of thinking. We all know how padlocks work, but to make one on our own with limited machining and stuff like that, just really takes some thinking. How are you going to make a key? How are you going to make a keyway? How are you going to provide tension to that keyway? How are you going to stop the key pins from dropping into the core? How are you going to keep the core in? How are you going to keep the shackle in? All of those things have to be thought about. They have to be executed, almost perfectly to just make a lock like this. And what a brilliant lock! So yeah, I take my hat off to Baldiloks for making this. I'd love to make something like that myself, actually. There's the other ball bearing, and maybe one day I will. But yeah, I'm just sort of in awe of somebody making something like this, just as a little hobby, a little side project. Absolutely brilliant. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed exploring it, and I'll see you all next time.